Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 5th chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to the disciples, "You have heard that it was said to those in ancient times, 'You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment.' But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, 'You fool,' you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go to hell. It was also said, 'Whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce.' But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord.' But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one." The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Christ.
Jesus knows some really interesting people, doesn't he? He knows people who are really angry. They're angry with their sisters and their brothers. And they better not pretend to be religious and come to church and throw money in the offering plate until they've gone and reconciled with the people they're angry with. But do they? Jesus knows a lot of really remarkable people. Like people who would rather take their friends to court and sue for damages than work things out in private. For less money, less fuss, and less chance of going to jail. And Jesus says, do that. But do we? Jesus knows a lot of very distinctive people. Like people who commit adultery. And he also knows some people who would think that that was not a really big deal at all. And he knows other people who would think that that is an incredibly big deal. But still nothing changes. Jesus knows every conceivable kind of person. He knows people, evidently, who swear a lot. But that doesn't mean the kind of swearing you did when you were a kid trying to impress your friends in the back of the bus. I know those words, and so do you. It's the kind of swearing where you use your reputation, or your connection with God, or some other thing in your life to tell people that your word is real, when maybe it's not. And God says, don't do that. But do we? Listen. What's Jesus trying to say in this, the last part of the Sermon on the Mount, to the people of God? What point is he trying to prove with this inventory of sins and sinners? I'd like to meet all those people, but it's hard to do it all in one place. Until, when I was in seminary, my wife and I found a very interesting activity. We read in the paper that there is an old historic hotel downtown, filled with all kinds of memories and other things, and they had shut it down, and they were going to take everything out of all the rooms and sell it and remodel it. So we decided, with limited funds in seminary, that that was a free activity and therefore qualified for our attention. And so off we went. One rainy Saturday morning, there we were in that hotel with only people who were looking for bargains, and us. The elevators weren't working, so we had to walk 10 floors up to the top. And then we started working our way down. We expected the glories of hotel living for inflated egos and big wallets. But when we walked into the penthouse, there was nothing there. It was empty. All gone. When we got down to about the 6th floor, we knew that we were headed for some surprises. We found a door that was clearly marked with the words Family Suite. And we thought, well, this should be interesting. Families in a hotel. And we walked through the door, and again, absolutely empty. Nothing there. We worked our way all the way down to the basement, where there were no lights, except those coming from the basement windows. And we saw ahead of us a wall of oak doors with brass fittings that were the refrigerators for the old hotel. We decided that it was too creepy to go all the way across the room and open one of the doors. But I suspect that they too would have been empty, don't you? Empty. Everything empty. Empty rooms, and maybe empty people staying there once upon a time. Is that what we were seeing? It certainly felt that way. Jesus is talking in the Sermon on the Mount with all of these rules to people who are empty inside. Like the hotel we visited, they were counting on grand and glorious lives. And maybe if they took the 10 Commandments, which is what Jesus is talking about here, it sounds like it, doesn't it? If they took the 10 Commandments and found certain loopholes, they could crawl through those loopholes, do what they wanted, and build glorious, wonderful lives for themselves. Makes sense, doesn't it? Why not? Try it. But it didn't especially work. Anger hurts. It's not just a rip-roaring release of what you feel, it hurts other people. Divorce is painful, terribly painful. Ask anybody who's been divorced. It's awful. All of these things and more hurt the people around us and empty our hearts. And Jesus will not have that. So, I guess the average person would listen to Jesus' sermon and say, all right, if that's the way it's going to be, then I'll just be the most religious, perfect person in the world and never break any of these laws. And that'll square me with God. And that is when Jesus says, if you lust in your heart, you're doing the same thing as if you followed through in that famous passage. Jesus knows his people. Jesus knows the people of God. We are the people of God. Missy and I decided not to give up on that old hotel. When they announced that the remodeling had been complete, we went back to see it once again. We found ourselves in the basement where they had installed a rip-roaring nightclub with a great band and a fantastic singer who spent the night singing the blues. We got a table and we settled in and we listened. And while we listened, we thought about all of those empty rooms above us and what it would have taken to fill those rooms with new and good things. And maybe by extension, we were thinking a little bit about Jesus in this last part of the Sermon on the Mount and what he was yearning to give people with empty hearts who had spent their lives crawling through loopholes in the law, trying to do only what they wanted and coming up empty. We thought maybe just a little bit about what Jesus wanted to give them. His life, his love, his presence. And as we thought about those things, we listened to the singer sing the blues, and we held hands. Jesus says something at the end of his sermon that's easy to miss. He says something about, doesn't he? You can't change even a hair on your head. Now, if you or I said that, that would be like, you're powerless. But when Jesus says it, he ends up pointing to God and saying, the power in your life, the life in those empty rooms, is the power of God. And if you let God fill those rooms with what he has for you, you will have life indeed. God knows his people. Jesus knows us. He knows how to fill those empty rooms